Peace, fam. Wanted to bring you a message today. And the title of this video is, don't come down here and get fucked up. And what I mean by that is specifically, when it comes to our purpose or what we're supposed to be doing, while alive or in this physical reality, we don't need to forget that we need to stay in tune with who we are, and what our purpose is as a people while in this physical reality. So the main thing I want to say is that, know that you have some other purpose than what's given to you while alive in this physical reality, or what others tell you, is supposed to be your purpose. And I'm talking about those, titles like, growing up, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be whatsoever, to satisfy you financially when you get older. And to some degree, that's all good and well, but that still kind of sidetracks us from our purpose, if we're not aware of what it actually is supposed to be. And that specifically is to, realize that you are a soul outside of a physical body, and even that soul has a divine purpose. And that's what most individuals don't tell you. They try to, coincide that with, go to church, be in some type of religious organization. But even those involved in those type of arenas, they still have yet to even understand what their sole purpose is. Now, the point of this video is not to tell anyone specifically what their purpose is, what they're supposed to be here doing. But I am here to say that it's not the titles or the positions, or the definitions that's usually given to us by man. So what we need to realize is that, the physical body is not the start nor the end, of existence. As I said, we are all composed of a divine spark, a soul, that can exist outside of this physical body, and that even that has a purpose. That purpose is greater than, anything on this physical level. But what you have to be aware of is that you have to continuously be in a state of evolution in regards to your soul. You have to, grow and mature that soul back to perfection. And basically, what you also have to realize is that, as a soul, each of us individually make up what you may call God or a higher power or the supreme. Each of us scattered as melanated people, we are composites, of a greater entity. We together make up the concept of God. So your soul is one with the divine because you are divine. That's what we have to realize. And this is why it says in the Bible, Jesus says that, doesn't it say in your law that ye are gods? What he specifically meant is, like I stated earlier, you are gods on the premise that each of us individually consist of, pieces of God, that was thrown into a physical reality or illusion in order to learn itself. So in order for God to be perfected, it had to come down into this physical reality, training grounds, simulation, in order to learn itself, mature, and become perfect. Become one again with the pleroma. If anyone is into the Gnostic teachings, they always speak of, Sophia breaking herself off, without the Supremes knowing, and thus creating another being, which is the demiurge, that kind of entrapped souls from the pleroma into a physical reality to keep this state, of existence going. And that state of existence at this time is the physical reality. And that's what we need to realize. We are souls, that were created inside and outside of creation. And what I mean by that is physical creation. When you look back on a lot of mythologies, especially the Greek mythology, they tell of, how these ancient gods were taken over by the children, and the gods were separated or broken into pieces, and what remained of the parent gods, that were taken over by the younger gods, they used those remains to create the physical world as we know it, and especially what consists of the original man. So as far as melanin is concerned, that is an original aspect of the parent gods that were used, to make up this physical reality. And what they have done is, these guys that we're serving, whether you want to attribute any type of truth to them, or if it's just a, figment of our imagination that we give these guys power, is that they've used the makeup or remains of the parent gods to make up what we have today, known as melanin, or anything you see out in this universe. That's what they refer to as dark matter, or what they don't know is. But basically, anyway, my point of saying that is that until you've been able to realize that, until you go into deeper understanding and study, you will always dismiss the idea that you are God. Based on my studies and just witnessing and experiencing all my life, it's much easier for people to worship an outside deity so that they have something or someone to blame or put all of their hopes and aspirations into, instead of looking within themselves as the God and changing their own situation. It's always easier to do that because, like it said, once you understand that you have that power, you know it becomes a different world from there on out. When you understand that you alone are God, and that you uplifting your people is allowing God to manifest back together as a whole. And I think this was something that was understood with our, ancient ancestors, Africans, Egyptians, whatsoever. They understood that concept. And see, what the beast or the demiurge has done, which is also a culmination of, various pieces, what it has done is that, one of the greatest tools and weapons it was able to use was that of slavery. Because once we were, engulfed and, put into slavery, it cut off that ancestral DNA or memory. So thus, we went into a state of sleep and forgot what our true purpose or divine purpose was. When you look at a lot of ancient, spiritual systems, they taught of these concepts, but based on the degradation of it, based on the whitewashing and, disregard and, them destroying that knowledge and taking it over, we as the original people, we forgot those meanings, or what we were here to actually be doing. So now we come down here as souls and we're told that, oh, live your life and, work on a job, shoot for the house with the white picket fence, gain all of these financial securities and, leave a name for your family. When that's like I said, it's all good in some ways, but that still has nothing to do with the overall soul evolution that you're supposed to sustain while you're here. And that's the spell that we're under. That's what Dr. York, referred to when he said we were under the spell of Leviathan, because we have forgotten who we are and we've forgotten our purpose as individual souls. And there's all sorts of measures, the demiurge has taken, to kind of keep us from awakening to that, purpose, or regaining back that ancestral memory that is, unfortunately for them, coming back in the form of consciousness, in a wave of consciousness that he can't stop. It's coming back, in that means to awaken us to what our true purpose is, and that this reality that we have such a hard time as melanated peoples being successful or getting along with. That is why, because this only serves as a prison for our soul. It's a training grounds. It's a simulation. We're only supposed to be here to evolve as a soul. So all this other stuff that you hear out here about, be all that you can be, make good of your life, all of that, it really serves no purpose. Now, I'm not saying that we're supposed to come here and be idle and not do anything. What you're supposed to be doing is be in a constant state of learning. And that's what you see with a lot of our people. And that's what they introduced to us in slavery. They cut off our ancestral memory and they stopped us from learning. That's one of the biggest crimes and atrocities that you can commit unto a people or a race in general, is to cut off their ability to read, write, and be able to learn. Because once you do that, you begin to, open that pineal gland and be able to see into other realities and dimensions outside of this one. And that's what the beast wants us to do. It wants us to believe that this is the only reality. Some people go to church and they hear about concepts of heaven and hell and, an afterlife and whatsoever. And I've been in the church all my life up until my, just about when I turned 20. So I'm used to the whole script, watered down scriptures, the hollering in church, all of this religious propaganda that's been set out. But people, even though they're involved in that, so-called religious and, such an upright Christian, they still fail to understand the in-depth gnosis of these texts. So, like I said, that's one of the biggest crimes that you can commit upon yourself and to other people, is to stop them from knowing or having knowledge, to stopping that process of gnosis. And what the beast is doing, because at the end of the day, it's impossible to stop any form of gnosis or consciousness to take place. But what they've done in order to prolong his rule is that they've implemented a few things here to kind of stop us from doing that. And one of the examples is keeping us in a state of frenzy. If you notice, we're living in a society that's, we live in a catch up, or distracted society. It's always keeping our mind focused on something other than gnosis or getting into knowledge, whether it be catch up and get the new phone. Every time you look, there's a new phone out, and people out here are following that, I have the new iPhone or whatsoever. Catching up, having the newest car, the best looking car, having the best looking clothes, having what the Joneses have, having I've got a financial plan set out to keep me secure for the next 50 years. Yeah, that's all good. That's all good and well, but it's also a trap to keep you focused on this physical reality. And that's another concept I want to touch on, is that most people don't understand in the Bible when it says, it's easier for a camel to pass through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. The purpose and reasoning behind that on the metaphysical level is that there's nothing wrong with having resources, but we have to understand as well that having those things or getting to that point of what you may call financially secure, it can actually block you from gnosis or enlightenment. And I say that because once you get to that point where you do have those excess resources, there's no such thing as financial stability. We all know that you have to continuously strive and work towards keeping that lifestyle, or that position that you have of financial success. So let's say you operate a business, it's doing well, you're gaining the resources and the finances, just happy with everything. But then you start to see that business decline. You see people are not into your product as much as, they used to be, or there's no real, need for your product anymore. So it starts to decline. Sales start to decline. You start to lose, finances, resources, probably have to go into bankruptcy. What some people will do is that they'll start to take advantage of others in order to retain that financial stability that they're used to, because what they've done is they've engulfed their lives so much into how much money they have. They've bought something that they have to keep affording, a home, a car, whatever things they've bought financially to remind themselves that they are successful. They may go through means of basically, shitting people over or taking advantage of good people in order to keep that lifestyle. So it's not that it's something wrong with having finances and resources. It's what are you doing in order to keep that lifestyle going, which, as much as I see it, usually ends up in taking advantage of people or whatsoever, taking advantage of their ignorance, or whatsoever. So that's why we say that. And it's harder to obtain any type of, wisdom or gnosis when that's your reality. Oh, how can I earn my next buck? How can I remain financially stable? How can I make sure I have a 401k plan that's going to pay out $1 million, when I'm 60 years old? Like I said, there's nothing wrong with that stuff if it's not blocking, if it's causing you, unless it's causing you to take advantage of people or it's blocking your gnosis. Other way, and I forgot, I skipped over this, but, some of the ways that they're stopping us from realizing, our soul's purpose or evolving, as souls, everything from, what they call junk DNA. They're trying to stop the activation of that, because ancestral memory works through our DNA as well. It's encoded in that. So once you begin to unlock or unravel those certain DNA, patterns or whatsoever, you awaken to what your actual purpose is, which is a threat to the supremacy. All this stuff with GMOs, artificial creation. Even though this is a physical body, there's still things you have to do to nourish the body in order to allow the mind to be a conduit for gnosis or awakening. That's why they have to put these fake creations out here. Don't provide you with the, natural substances and, nutrients that you need to enliven yourself and enlighten you. They want to keep you on a dead state, feeding you GMOs, animal flesh or whatsoever. And especially the media. The media is one of the biggest, brainwashing mechanisms of all time. The media is always keeping us in a state of panic, whether it be, what they falsely label as terrorism, this whole weather modification thing. So, what's the next hurricane coming? What's the next damage that's going to be done? What type of violent uprising is going on in the world at the time, which keeps us in a state of panic. And when you're in a state of panic, like I heard from Bobby Hemmett one time, what it actually does is shuts down the melanin. But when you're under stress, it actually activates the melanin. So as long as they keep us in panic, worrying about what's going to happen next, am I going to lose my job? Is the government going to shut down? Am I going to take a pay decrease? Am I going to lose my job or whatsoever? That's stopping us from focusing on our soul's evolution, and actually causing us to not evolve as we're supposed to be doing. So none of this stuff, hallmarked as important on the physical level is actually important. And even to some extent, this whole forms of consciousness thing, at the end of the day, it's really not even, suggestive of a soul's evolution. All of this stuff we talk about, now let me get this straight, on certain levels, as far as uniting black people as a whole, that reflects, like I said earlier in my message, what we need to do on a higher soul purpose level, as far as, awakening our people back to, the God's consciousness or, Christ consciousness to become one again. So on the physical level, we have to activate that. We have to remind our people of our history and what we've done that was taken away from us for them to be able to elevate to that level. But most of these things that's being spoken about now, they don't have nothing to do with nothing. They're just for, individual purposes, for people to sound good. And like I said, continue to make their money or their next buck by taking advantage of your ignorance. So you're never supposed to follow anyone as a leader. You need to go out there and do your own research. And that's where the whole concept, lastly, of reincarnation comes in. Most people have taken a liking towards reincarnation, but that actually is nothing positive. Once you come to a state of gnosis, you understand that another one of your main purposes is to not have to come back to this place. Like I said, if it's a prison, if a prisoner gets out of prison, they usually don't want to go back. But like I said, on a metaphysical level, if you don't understand that your soul has been embodied or entrapped into a physical body, and this is not your true existence or your true form, why would you want to continuously come back here where so much strife and, oppression, and violence going on? This is not the place your soul wants to be, and that's why most of us have a yearning that we don't belong here. That yearning is an actual calling back to the pleroma or your higher state. But those who keep the knowledge and hide it, they don't want you to know that. They want you to believe that this is our only, this is what reality is. This is what you're supposed to be doing, going to get the next highest degree, getting the newest car, like I said earlier. All these bullshit reasons to stay entrapped, and off track with true gnosis. And just one of the last points I want to make before I close this video out. Bobby Hemmett said at one point in one of his lectures that, all of these people that you see out here on drugs, prostituting, seems like they've destroyed their lives. Those happen to be the souls that have come down here, you know, and have gotten so lost in this physical reality that, they've lost, sight of their true purpose. And we shouldn't be looking down on those people. We should be trying to uplift those people too, because like I said, we're all going to come back into the pleroma and be as one, as God at the end of the day. That's why it says in the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth. It didn't say the rich and the wealthy or those who own the most books or preaching the church, telling lies. Those are going to be the ones to inherit the earth. It says the meek. So all these brothers and sisters out here that you look down upon on or use them as a reference to say, well, at least I'm not like that. Those are the people you should be going to, trying to uplift or even getting information from. Some of those people know way more than any preacher or scholar can tell you. But that's my message. This is Rod Tahuti. Peace.